We're fortunate to have the federal member for each of those 4 electorates to speak with us. First up, we're going to hear from the federal member for Hughes, Craig Kelly. Craig.
Thank you, John, and good evening, everyone. Firstly, all the distinguished guests here tonight, my federal parliamentary colleagues, Jason, Darryl and Tony. Also, we have the state member for Bankstown, Tanya, is here tonight. And also, I believe we have the state member for East Hills, Glenn Brooks. Is Glenn here? Yeah, Glenn's here tonight. Good to see you, Glenn. Thanks for coming. Ladies and gentlemen, how did we arrive at this mess? That's a very good question. Correct. The simple reason is that we have a Prime Minister that was prepared to do or say anything to cling to power. That is a sad fact today in our democracy. We have a Prime Minister that was so desperate to cling to power that she was prepared to do any deal, to sell out the club industry, to sacrifice jobs to keep her own job. Now, what is worst about this policy is how anti-democratic it is. We live in a democratic country. That is something we must never, ever take for granted. I don't think there is one person here tonight that voted for a licence to punt at the last election. No. This club has 66,000 members. None of them voted for a licence to punt. Club members in this area, as we've heard tonight, 400,000. Not one of them voted for a licence to punt, but we have one federal member who was elected to Parliament with 13,000 votes that is pushing this through. This is completely against every democratic principle we have in our country. Also, this policy is hopelessly misconceived. Like many of the government's policies that we have seen today, although well-intentioned, they simply have not thought it through. Exactly as we've seen with the carbon tax, immigration policy, border protection, everything they touch turns to a complete mess. And this will be exactly the same. Now, what is worse, when you really think through this policy, it won't help problem gamblers at all. All it will do is drive them into other forms of gambling. Now, I'm sure many of you have looked at the online gambling that's available on the internet today, especially on poker machines. What this is likely to do is to drive so-called problem gamblers and people who do not have a gambling problem away from the clubs and to play poker machines online in the comfort of their home. Now, what will happen then is the revenue from that gambling is just sent straight offshore. Not 1 cent will stay in the country. Not 1 cent will go to taxes to pay for all the government resources that we need. Not 1 cent will go to create the employment of the jobs of all the people that work here. And not 1 cent will go to the many community groups that rely on the club industry. That is why this policy is misconstrued. Secondly, it is a complete waste of resources. We've heard tonight that it would cost clubs in this area $95 million to bring this technology in. There are many things that we need to do in our society today, but our resources are scarce, they're limited, and they're precious. We need to look at our hospitals. We need to spend more on our hospitals. We need to spend more on our aged care. We need to spend more on our kids with disabilities. We need to spend more on our public transport. Can anyone really think if we have $95 million to spend, that is the best allocation of resources? Unfortunately, that is what this government is telling us. Now, tonight, I feel sorry for Jason, Darryl and Tony. I truly do. They are going to try and sell a policy that they don't simply have their heart in it. They know it's against the best interests of our area. They know it's against the best interests of all our community groups. They know it's against the best interests of our clubs. Now, as a member of a coalition, I can give you a commitment that our coalition will be voting against this policy. It only takes one more vote, one single vote, to stop this legislation going through. Now, we've got 3 guys here tonight. Either of them have it in their power to cross the floor when the vote is called in the chamber. It's up to just one. We only need one vote. So one of you three guys has it within your power to stop this legislation from going through. One of you guys, or just one of you guys, has it within your power to save the jobs of the people here tonight. Now, if they don't, there's still another alternative. Now, at the last election, certainly no one in this room voted for a licence to punt. But I'll tell you one thing, at the next election, you'll have a licence. And that licence will be to punt this government to oblivion if they continue with this policy. Thank you very much. With community support, we can defeat this mad, crazy plan. Thank you.
Craig Kelly, thank you very much indeed.